up, Elevate? Hey, we are in week 2 of goals, and speaking of goals, I'm decked out in all my Bears stuff because they made it to the playoffs, and I'm hoping they win today. But we are in week 2, and here's the deal. We set goals all the time. Finish my homework by 7, make the volleyball team, watch less Netflix, play less video games. But after you set a goal, have you ever felt stuck? Let me ask you a question. Did you ever read this book, The Little Prince, when you were growing up? There's a quote in it that says, "A goal without a plan is just a wish." And the author, Antoine, I can't pronounce his last name, but we're on a first name basis anyways. He seems like he knows a lot about goals because he was pretty accomplished. He was a writer, he was a poet, a journalist, and he was even a pilot. And while some of us may be more naturally talented than others in certain areas, we are all capable of accomplishing big things. Whether it's learning a new skill or changing the world, God gives us all the ability to solve problems and make things happen. But to accomplish anything, we usually need a plan. So what's a goal that wouldn't be possible without a plan? It might be a spiritual goal, like spending more time with God regularly. It might be a mental goal, like learning something new. It might be a physical goal, like trying a new activity or getting stronger or faster or more agile. It might be a relational goal, like being a better friend or being kinder to your family. These are all good goals, but without a plan, they are just wishful thinking. Now let's pick up where we left off last week in the story of Nehemiah. And just to recap a little bit, about 140 years before this book was written, the Jewish people were conquered by an enemy army who had destroyed the city of Jerusalem and sent many of God's people into exile. And at the time of Nehemiah, some of the Jews had begun returning to Jerusalem looking for ways to rebuild their city. And inspired by his love for his people and his God, Nehemiah set a God-sized goal: rebuild the walls of Jerusalem so God's people would be protected and God would be honored. Nehemiah had a goal, but what about a plan? If you remember from last week, the first thing that Nehemiah did was to spend some time in prayer. He fasted and he prayed for months. And there's a few things I noticed from his prayer, and you can go back and read verses 4 through 11 in chapter 1 as a refresher. But here's a few things I noticed. Nehemiah didn't ask God for step-by-step instructions. He knew God wanted him to lead the charge to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, and that was enough for Nehemiah. He didn't say, "I'll just sit here and wait for you to tell me what to do next." He just started planning. And by the time he reached the end of his prayer, Nehemiah was already working on his plan. He asked God to help him be successful in what he was about to attempt, which meant he had already thought about what he was going to do. And one last thing I noticed is he says that he's the cupbearer to the king. And this is helpful information for us to know, but I think it has another purpose. It shows us that Nehemiah was making note of the resources God had already given him. As a cupbearer to the king, he had access and influence with the most powerful person in the kingdom. Now fast forward to chapter 2. Here's what we read in verses 6 through 9. It says, "The king, with the queen sitting beside him, asked, 'How long will you be gone? When will you return?' After I told him how long I would be gone, the king agreed to my request. I also said to the king, 'If it please the king, let me have letters addressed to the governors of the province west of the Euphrates River, instructing them to let me travel safely through their territories on my way to Judah. And please give me a letter addressed to Asaph, the manager of the king's forest, instructing him to give me timber. I will need it to make beams for the gates of the temple fortress, for the city walls, and for a house for myself." And the king granted these requests because the gracious hand of God was on me. When I came to the governors of the province west of the Euphrates River, I delivered the king's letters to them. The king, I should add, had sent along army officers and horsemen to protect me. Now we discover that Nehemiah hadn't just been praying casually and casually planning. He had been preparing in great detail. He had a response for every question the king had. Throughout this process, Nehemiah continued to talk to God in prayer, but he didn't wait for God to do all the work. He used the strategic mind that God gave him to plan and prepare while waiting for the right opportunity. Because Nehemiah had prepared in detail for the opportunity he hoped he would get to speak with the king, when God arranged the perfect moment, Nehemiah was fully prepared to take advantage of it. As you continue to read the rest of chapter 2, you'll read about some of the opposition that Nehemiah picked up along the way. Two guys with really fierce names, Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the Ammonite. Their names literally mean killer of men and goal stopper. Now, I'm actually just kidding. I totally made that last part up. But here's the deal. When you're working on a God-sized goal, you will face opposition. But once again, Nehemiah was ready. He wasn't naive. He expected people to oppose him. He knew to hold his tongue and keep his plans a secret from the people who opposed him. He was wise about who he trusted. He figured out a way to bypass the people who opposed him so he could recruit people who shared his vision for this God-sized goal. He surrounded himself with the right people. God gave Nehemiah a huge task. But God also gave Nehemiah everything he needed to make it happen. Yeah, this goal was probably scary and really overwhelming sometimes, but Nehemiah didn't give up or wait around for someone else to handle it. Nehemiah took the vision that God had given him, the skills God had given him, and the resources God had given him, and he got to work. Think about one big goal you've achieved. Now, I don't know how you achieved your goal, but here's what I do know. You were able to achieve it because God provided the tools you needed to accomplish it. You have a brain that can strategize, people who can help you, and skills and resources you can use. God designed you just like he designed Nehemiah, with everything you need to accomplish God-sized goals. He has given you the building blocks that you need to do it. You've got you. Now, we all have days when we feel insecure about who we are or what we can do, but God designed you with care, intention, and purpose. And when God gives you a God-sized goal, ask, what do I bring to the table? How can I contribute? Now, you have a mind that can think, plan, and strategize. You have a unique blend of skills, experience, and knowledge. And you have God-given interests and passions. And God also gives you others. Just like Nehemiah discovered, most God-sized goals can't be achieved alone. There's a lot we can accomplish on our own, but if we want to make lasting change, we're going to need other people. When God gives you a God-sized goal, ask, who can I work with? You have friends and family. trusted adults, teachers, coaches, mentors, access to knowledge from experts through books or videos, the internet. You have access to influential people who can make things happen either in person or online, or people in your small group. A third building block that you have are resources. Just like Nehemiah needed transportation, wood, letters, the king's blessing, you're probably going to need some resources to help you accomplish your God-sized goals too. When God gives you a God-sized goal, ask, what do I need and where can I get it? Everyone's God-sized goals will need different things, but maybe for you, it's money or supplies or an audience, a location, a platform, or maybe you just need an opportunity. The last building block, most importantly, is God. Whether your goal is an everyday you-sized goal or a once-in-a-lifetime God-sized goal, God is with you. And just like God was with Nehemiah, like Nehemiah, God probably isn't going to give you a step-by-step plan for achieving your God-sized goal, but that's okay. You don't need one because you already have everything that you need. Now, if you've been paying attention to the news this week, then you probably know that we have some rebuilding of cities and nations to do of our own. So maybe you can start there and ask yourself and God, what part can I play in rebuilding? What can I do to help chart a new path for others? He's given you the bricks. Now it is up to you to build something.